Hi everyone, Angus Campbell here, Saturday the 16th of January 2021. Right, at the end of the last video we were just prepping all the bits and pieces for the inlet tract, Carbs and Inlet tract. And there were a few things that we needed to order, and those have arrived. So the first thing is that we've got the rubber mounts for the carb stub to inlet nib. These are standard Trident Rocket 3 from Les Williams, I think, so they're good quality. So I got a pack of 3, but we'll just have a spare one, that's fine. The other thing was that we only had one of these lock nuts, jam nuts, whatever you want to call them, for the nibs into the cylinder head inlet port. And these are 1 3/16 UNC. And they're a special one-off as far as I can tell. 212028, something like that. BSA. Anyway, I had to get some made up, which have now arrived actually, and I had to get a minimum quantity of 50, and actually they've sent 70, so that's probably enough for the material that they had, and here they are. And they're very nice actually. Unlike the original one, which is just straight flat, they've chamfered these and they look really nice actually, so I'm really pleased with them. And the threads are correct, so that's 16 TPI, and we screw onto the nibs perfectly. So we'll use a couple of them, but you know, it looks like a manufacturing batch in here. Just down there, there's a whole pile of them. Which is a little like some of the original bags of stuff I've got amongst that lot up there with original Fury batches. I'll show you at some point. And the final thing was that didn't have a choke lever, so that's all sorted. And I deliberately bought one that's supposedly for the left hand side, which this one is, and then checked it against the original, and it's still the other way around. Anyway, that'll do. So we've got all the parts, and the next thing to do then is, as you can see, I've just put the tank on and the seats, so we'll take those off. But this is still raised up on the stand, as it has been for approximately 9 or 10 years. But because we're going to be working on the inlet side from the top, because as you can see, it is a bit, you can't get at it from too much from the sides because of the frame tubes, because the carbs very much sit in there. Well, as you can see here, actually, on the Show Fury, they're well tucked in behind there, so you can see the float ball there. So we'll attack it from the top. So that means lowering the stand for this first time for years, donkey's years. So we'll just clear up underneath, and we'll get that down. Right, okay. Descended, nearly down on the floor, and a totally different view. But gives a much better access then to the carb cavity just here, and there's your plenum chamber, and then we've got the filter sitting on the top. So we need to get into the plenum chamber so we can fit properly the engine breather tube, which fits to the bottom of the plenum chamber. And also then there's a small hole in the bottom of the plenum chamber. Well, let's just take this off. So that's a filter there with a top plate and a bottom plate that just sits on top of the plenum chamber there. And now what you can see here is the hole at the bottom there, which is for the breather tube. So the breather tube's there, we've just got to fit that. You can see here and here are the mounting studs, because it actually sits on extensions from the battery tray, which you can't see at the moment. And then, I don't know whether you can see, just there I think it is. Let's get a torch. Oh, no, it's not there. What there should be... Oh, yeah, there it is. So, you can see just to the, as we're viewing it, the bottom side of the hole for the engine breather tube, there's a little tiny hole just next to the mounting stud for the filter, and that's just a tiny drain hole for any condensed oil mist or whatever that comes in here from the engine. I suppose it could be for any other fluid as well. And what we've got to do is, as per the parts book, is put a little tiny split pin through that, just to, as you reduce, if you like, the airflow that goes through it. So that's correct. So we'll do that too. So that's the first thing to do, is to sort out the engine breather and that little split pin. Other than that, then we're done in there. Although you will see shortly the reasons why, with respect to the inlets for the carbs, we'll need to fit the inlet stubs and the rubbers first before the carbs, because they're pigs to fit. So we'll do all that while this is off as well. And then, just if you're wondering, this that nut there is just the mounting nut. It's looking a bit rusty actually. Don't know why. For the Xeno diode, because this big plenum chamber is used as a heatsink for the Xeno diode. Right, first things first then, let's just tidy up the bottom end of that lot. Okay, engine breather rubber in, and just underneath that, from this view, in between the rubber and the big stud sticking up towards us, you can just see the shiny head of the split pin that I've inserted into that condensation drain hole. So, next job, while this lid is off and the filter is off, is that we need to insert the carbs and the rubber. And this is a pig of a job, but there's no avoiding it. It doesn't matter which way around you do it. I prefer to do it this way around, where, as you can see, I've already put the rubbers onto the inlet stub screwed into the carb, and they're quite tight. And then I prefer to use the carb, you know, the body of the carb really, something you really get a grip on, to move this lot around when you're trying to manipulate this rubber into the hole in the plenum chamber. So it's going to require plenty of lubrication and a lot of patience, but there will be profanities, so I shan't probably record that for obvious reasons. So I had to use hot water really to stretch these out to get these onto the inlet stubs. But anyway, they're on, and we'll do that. We'll do that next and get that job out of the way, and then we'll put the nibs into the cylinder head and lock those up, and then we slide the rubbers onto the nibs, ready, and then we'll mount these stubs on the other side of the carb, like so. Carbs have got the O-ring in, also got a couple of gaskets, got the nuts and bolts correct length to use. Struggling a bit for washers, but I've managed to find 4. One's slightly different outside diameter, but inside diameter's fine, so we'll use that. But after these 4, I'm absolutely out of 5/16 flat washers. But anyway, first thing is let's get these carbs in and have some fun and games. Right, the first stub, or what they call an adapter, is in. I had to do a bit of a trim on the rubber seal, but it's not too bad. I've got a funny feeling that the sealing rubbers are not original for the Fury. I think they're from the air filter carburetor adapters from the Rocket 3, and that they're a slightly different size. But anyway, I've managed to open this one out a bit, and it looks okay, and it's a nice snug fit. But it does turn, which allows us then to screw the carb into there, because there's not enough room here to spin the carb onto this. We need to spin this onto the carb. So if we go back over to the carb then, so we want the left hand carb, which is this one. I've got the O-ring in, we've got the gasket. I've never known the logic of having an O-ring onto a gasket. I would have thought it would make more sense for the O-ring to go to seat onto a nice clean flat surface like that, but apparently there is supposed to be a gasket. So the first thing we'll do then is we'll just bolt this together, and then we can screw the carb in and the nib, and I think we'll have enough room to get the nib in. Before we screw the nib in, we'll slide the rubber over, and then we can slide it over onto that end of the stub and connect it up. So I think that's how it'll work, but first of all let's see if we can get the carb in. Right, we're getting there, nearly there. So the nib's in as far as it will go, screwed into the head, and then locked in with the lock nut stroke jam nuts we had made up. You can see I've just got the rubber resting on the nib at the moment, so that can slide like so. But you can see there we've got no gap between that and the stub, and also the carb is pushed too close to the plenum chamber. This adapter is supposed to stick probably about 50% inside the plenum chamber, but the whole carb needs to move that way a bit. So I'm going to shave some meat off the stub here, the adapter stub on this side, because that'll still give us plenty of room to get more than a Jubilee clip's worth of rubber seated properly on that side. But nearly there. But what I did learn was that the reason why I've already screwed the nib in on that side is because I had to take that adapter off, obviously, to get it screwed in, because it's nearly up to the carb before you screw it in onto the threads at the left hand end down there. So we're getting there. So we'll get that off, get it shaved down, and then refit. Right, after thinking about this and coming back the next evening, then I did what I suggested I was going to do, and that is the 2 inlet tract stubs on this side of the carb. I've cut 1/4 of an inch off those, which has allowed me to bring the carb that way a bit to give a bit more room here. And but but still make sure that they're fairly snug underneath the connecting rubber there. So there's a little tiny bit of a gap because they're officially rubber mounted then, but it is pretty snug and everything's all buttoned up. And they never look very firm to me when they're mounted like this, you know, just resting effectively in the plenum chamber at this end with the two adapters, and then just by a rubber here, but they are absolutely solid, so that's good. And this is correct, by the way. The carburetor adapters are supposed to project inwards into the plenum chamber quite significantly. They're not intended to be sort of spacers down here, effectively, with the carb bodies further forward. So if we look at it from this side, you can see how tucked in the carbs are behind the frame spar, and on the Show Fury it's exactly the same. Just wondering if let's have a look. So just seeing what height they are actually. Just wondering if these look a little tiny bit lower maybe. No, I don't think so. No, that's about right. Yeah, happy with that. Got to remember that this is I've raised this slightly on the stand just to save me back a bit when I'm doing this. But anyway, that's that done. Right. Final job then for this stage is just to put the filter back on top of the plenum chamber. So I took the central locking stud out because that was getting in the way. So we'll get that back in and double nut it all the way down to the bottom. And then once I've tightened that up, then effectively you've got the plate here with its dimples to locate it on the plenum chamber. It just sits on top with the filter on top of that. And then you've got the filter cap and the washer and lock nut, simple as that. So let me just button this down now and button that lot up, and then that'll be it. Right, there we are, all buttoned up and solid. You probably noticed this cover has got the odd scratch on it, etc., and that's because this is in original factory paint. And I don't know whether you'll be able to see it, but you can see then that actually when I had all this lot powder coated, the main rolling chassis, etc., it is a little tiny bit lighter than it should be. I don't know if you can see the difference there. That is slightly darker. And people seem to think that the paint code for the Dove Grey is RAL 7038. Well, it's not. It's near. It's close, but it's not quite. So when I did the A70, I got some specially made up and matched up to one of these covers, because I have a few parts about that are in original factory paint, so they come in handy. Some of them are still wrapped, so you know they're pretty original and not faded. So anyway, I've kept that as it is, which I like when they're in good enough condition. Right, so we'll leave it there for this one. As you can see here, still a bit to do up the top here yet. No HT leads yet, which you can see they run a bit of a tortuous route all the way from back here to the engine. And obviously we've got the carb innards and all the cabling to do, which at the front end here, and all the cabling to tidy up, it's all a bit tight. So we've got that to do yet, but we'll do that in the next episode. And then just to finish off, the tool tray sits on the top here. Just like so. And actually sits on the filter. And actually what's happened on the original one, I've still got the original one under there on the show furring, it's all quite badly cracked now because you can see it coming on this one. Actually, one of the seat rubbers sits on it, which isn't an ideal design, but anyway. So there we are, getting there and pretty tidy up the top, and just a few bits to finish off. Right, we'll leave it there. So what was the objective of the beginning of this? That was to fill that hole up there, and in fact it was taken from the other side, wasn't it? So it was there, and that is all filled now. So thanks very much for watching, everybody. Thanks for your interest, for comments and any subscriptions. I appreciate that. And we'll leave it there and see you all again soon. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye-bye.